as you're watching that absolutely absurd, let's start with Giants Broncos here. Like, if as you're watching that absolutely absurd game, like, how much of that are you thinking, what are the Giants doing? How much are you thinking, like, how did we even get here? Like, what's going through your mind as you're watching that play out?
Well, let me first say, to be fair for the Giants fans, there is reasons to be excited, and those reasons are the rookies with Jackson Dart and Cam Scatabo. But what you're thinking at that point is could you possibly blow this based on the fact that it would be a historic loss? And by historic, I'm not being hyperbolic. Literally, the Broncos were the first team ever to score 33 points in the fourth quarter after not scoring a single point in the first three quarters in NFL history. That's how bad it was statistically from that type of meltdown. And really, my concern for the Giants coming out of that is, okay, yeah, you have some positives with those young rookies on offense, but what is your defense doing, right? This is what you were supposed to hang your hat on this year. You have invested so greatly in your defensive front when you have Brian Burns and Dexter Lawrence and Kayvon Thibodeau, and then you bring in Abdul Carter, and yet they weren't able to slow the Broncos when it mattered the most. And I think that's really problematic for the team and how it's currently constructed based on how they want to move forward.
So when you're watching, as this is kind of unfolding, how'd you want New York to play in the fourth quarter?
I mean, that's difficult because at this point, I grew up a Browns fan, so anytime you go conservative, I start getting the heebie-jeebies because I lived through all the Denver Broncos stuff in the '80s and Marty Schottenheimer. So you want them. I've now err on the opposite side. Be aggressive, right? I believe in the NFL specifically today when games are often so close late in the contest and we see so many comebacks based on how the offense is favored due to all the rules in the league. You want to step on your opponent's throat and make sure they are finished. And not doing that, I think, to me, is a major disservice to your team and your ability to win week in and week out.
Brent, so outside of the ridiculous Giants and Broncos game, what else, I guess, caught you off guard from the weekend in terms of just pure results? Was it, I mean, the 49ers with their MASH unit actually looking like a functional football team still? Like, what caught you off guard yesterday?
I don't know if I'll say it caught me off guard, but I think a realization dawned upon me. Mm-hmm. Guys, the Indianapolis Colts are for real.
They're like the real deal, man.
Pretty good.
That's my off-season hot take of the year.
It was. Right? It was. I have to give him credit.
I think we've discussed this previously, but like we're now 7 weeks in. They are the best team in the NFL with the highest scoring offense in the NFL. And Daniel Jones is playing like an elite quarterback.
And they're so physical.
Like, yes, and like Daniel Jones is playing like an elite quarterback. Sorry, listen, I had to say it again.
They play with some – listen, they got lead in their pencil, boy. They bring it.
Now, they do have some issues defensively because of injuries, right? Travarius Ward just got put on injured reserve, so he's out for 4 games. Their secondary is basically just been pieced together through guys that they've either signed off of practice squads or off the street, having Xavier Howard abruptly retire on them in mid-season. So there are issues there, and that's what we have to look for when it comes to actual contendership with that team. But when you see him week in and week out, it may not be the most surprising thing to this point, but just how efficient they are on offense and moving the ball at that level at a consistently high pace may be the story of the entire NFL season so far. And I think that's where a lot of us are taken aback based on what we've seen.
I think you'll get the question when I ask it. Who's most like their current record? The Green Bay, the Packers, or the Chargers?
Man, I was going to go off the board and say the Dallas Cowboys because their offense is so good and their defense sucks, which is why you're 500 overall.
Seems like the Chargers should be better and the Packers should be worse. Who's most like their current record?
I would say the Chargers in the options you gave me, just because. I mean, what is the old saying? They're charging their way through a season, and there's a lot of connotations to that. In most cases, it's finding ways to lose.
Even with Harbaugh, like how are they 4-3 when you look at how they lost to the Giants and the Commanders?
Well, the reason I'm saying that they're most like the Chargers and representative of their record is because one of the things that organization specifically has had issues with, feels like almost 2 decades now, is injuries, right? That team is a mass unit at the moment. And if you watch Justin Herbert yesterday, he played like Superman. Unfortunately, the rest of the team just is terrible and barely holding together at this point. And so that's, to me, why they most are representative of their record, because it's what we've seen from them before. High expectations, really good quarterback play as of late, and yet they still can't put everything together because they can't keep people healthy on the field.
In your mind, do the Patriots have a real shot to win the AFC East?
Yes, absolutely. And the reason why, well, twofold. One, Drake May. He is literally budding into a superstar before our very eyes, and it's unbelievable. He's literally better than Tom Brady. Caveat. For one day, he was better than Tom Brady ever was for the New England Patriots, right? And setting the single-game completion record, which was awesome to see. But it shows how they've built around him properly this offseason. Now they're taking full advantage of the talent on the entire roster, which leads me to my second point about the New England Patriots. Mike Vrabel is a legitimate coach.
Yeah.
Mike Vrabel knows how to get teams prepared. Even when he was in Tennessee and they were struggling at points, you always knew when you were on the field that was going to be a tough game because they were going to be prepared and they were going to play physical. And so you're getting that now with the New England Patriots as well. So it's a real net positive to the direction in which they're going.
Brett, let me ask you about Tampa Bay. They're not even healthy yet. And we continue the last couple of years to overlook Mayfield's productivity. Why do you think he can't get the benefit of the doubt? That front office has been good. Why does Tampa get the but?
I think a lot of it with Baker Mayfield is preconceived notions, right? Either you loved him or you didn't when he came in the league, and so you're kind of steadfast in what you believed. Again, being in Ohio, being around the Browns for a long time, I fully understand how there is lingering resentment towards Baker Mayfield from a lot of fans and a lot of people around the league. But if you're asking me personally, I think he's the NFL MVP at this point in the juncture based on how he's leading that team and the fact that he doesn't have his full complement of wide receivers, right? There's points where he's had his top 3 guys were out of the lineup. Yep. All right, Mike Evans hurt, Chris Godwin hurt, Jalen McMillan. You had Emeka Buka emerge, but then he got
O-line's been banged up.
Yeah, exactly. All the above, and yet he keeps putting them in position to win. So I think a lot of it has to do with Baker, his mentality, and whether people actually like him or not. I think it's unfair, of course, but that's the type of world we live in nowadays. Just you can't deny, much like Daniel Jones, right? Much like Drake May, guys we already talked about. You cannot deny what he's doing this year, and it's been exceptional.
Brent, as we kind of look around, is there a team that you look at and you go, I'm just not buying it? Whether it's, I don't know,
I got one
4-2 Bears team, or I mentioned the 49ers earlier. I'm a 49ers fan. With the injuries and stuff, I'm not really buying the 5-2. Like, who do you look at and you go, like, yeah, I'm gonna need to see a little bit more still?
The team, for me, I'm not a Denver Broncos believer, despite how we started this conversation. I don't believe in Bo Nix being able to play at the highest level possible for them to compete where they want to be. I think defensively they're very good, but at the same time, I don't see enough from that offense to think that they can win the AFC West outright. You have the Chiefs actually just full on surging at this point, and Patrick Mahomes basically back to form, almost MVP level form. So I won't be surprised in the least if the Chiefs once again win that division. The Broncos take a half step back, make the playoffs, but likely go out in their first round or two.
Brent, every week I tune in just because I like Aaron Glenn. But the team I thought you were going to say are the Carolina Panthers good?
Maybe it's because I don't think that, even though they have a 4-3 record.
They seem like they definitely have an identity. They run the ball and they play D.
Yep. Yeah, 100%. And that keeps you in games, right? We know those two things travel. That's the old saying. And they just got Chuba Hubbard back. Now, excuse me, granted, Hubbard did not perform all that well in his return to lineup. He averaged 2.2 yards per carry. It was not pretty in that regard. But once he gets back to speed coming off that calf injury, and you have Rico Dowdell in there as well, that's a two-headed monster that you can lean on, whether Bryce Young's healthy or not. I mean, obviously he got slightly dinged yesterday, but at the same time, he's not the quarterback you expected him to be. So take less onus off of him, which should make him more effective and comfortable within the scheme. And clearly they want to be physical, and it's working well to them. Now, with that said, can they keep up with legitimate offenses in the NFL? And I don't believe that's the case at all, even with that run game, because you look at Carolina, do you think they can keep up with let's say the Colts, as mentioned earlier, or Chiefs right now, or Dallas Cowboys, the way they're playing offense? And I don't think that's possible in any way, because they don't have the explosivity in their pass game to really keep up with the NFL's top offenses.
Brent, as you go through and look at some of these disappointing teams, I think there's one that DB and I both looked at before the season. We're like, are they going to be, we're just going to assume that what we saw last year is real. What do you do with the Washington Commanders and the sophomore slump of Jaden Daniels?
So I was right on the Colts to the good, and so far I'm right on the Commanders to the bad. All regression team right here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I don't know if I necessarily want to say Daniels hasn't played as well. He's just been injured, right? He missed 2 games due to injury, comes back, gets injured again. Marcus Mariota coming into the lineup yesterday. If you don't have that unique weapon in your offense, it's really going to stunt how your overall effectiveness. So that to me is really, with that lack of inconsistency at the game's most important position, or lack of consistency at the game's most important position, it's really hindered what they can do from multiple different directions. And then furthermore, some of their skill players around the quarterback position have not played as well this year as we expected. So, yeah, you're absolutely right. In regression candidate, I think they're still good enough if Daniels can get healthy and start playing to his level. But it's not going to be anywhere near what we saw last year.
When you're taking a look at what has to happen in the AFC South, I get it. The Colts are doing Colts things. But if you're a Texans fan, how concerned are you if we both agree that we think DeMeco Ryans is a good coach?
I do agree that he's a good coach.
I do too.
I think they have natural limitations that were placed upon them based on the roster. And that's not the head coach's job. So he's got to make the best of what he has available to him. And when you've done what they've done with their offensive line over the last 2 seasons, it's a travesty, especially when you have a good young quarterback in C.J. Stroud, who has regressed because he does not have the support around him necessary. There is talent at wide receiver. They're old at running back. Even when Joe Mixon was healthy, he was nearing 30. Nick Chubb now is on the downside of his career. Obviously, he had injuries, major injuries to Tank Dell. That didn't help things. But at the same time, you need to properly protect him. And they have reshuffled that offensive line so much over the last year or season and a half that it just becomes difficult. I don't think typical fans realize how important that is to overall team success. If you go back and listen to some of the teams we're discussing offensively and how good they are, the Indianapolis Colts arguably have the best offensive line in football, or right there, right? The Dallas Cowboys, they just got healthy with Tyler Booker back. Even without Booker, they were playing very well in the trenches. Look at the Chicago Bears right now, surging on a 4-game win streak, right? They're winning because of that offensive line, and they made a change at left tackle in order to get to that point. So with the Texans and that upheaval constantly blocking, I think there are issues. With that said, there is an opening in the AFC South past the Indianapolis Colts. Yeah. The Jacksonville Jaguars might be 4-3, but Trevor Lawrence has never taken that step everyone's expected it to. The Tennessee Titans are an absolute disaster. So that leaves you room for improvement for the Houston Texans, and you have the ability to do so as long as Stroud can stay upright and that defense plays well.
Brent, if I narrowed down the NFC to 3 teams, Buccaneers, Lions, and Eagles, who are you taking?
Wait, say that again. I apologize.
If I narrowed the NFC down to just 3 teams, the Buccaneers, the Lions, and the Eagles, who are you taking?
I'm still taking the Detroit Lions. I still believe in their ability, their coaching staff. Their roster is fantastic. They still have a great offensive line. Even without Ben Johnson as their offensive play caller, I think they've been absolutely stellar at points this year. And they've been in this situation at this point. They're ready for that next push to get into the Super Bowl. Eagles are obviously experienced as well, but they're still trying to figure things out. It was promising this past weekend. They're like, hey, we have great wide receivers. Let's push the ball down the field. The fact it took them this long to get there is a problem unto itself. So, and just start using play action. But I do believe in Detroit and what they can do.
You got to kind of give – I get it. He's the laughing stock because he's silly, not because people don't think he's a good coach. He just doesn't fit the mold. But without Ben, they lost Glasnow. His staff got rated, and they're still legit, man. Dan Campbell, he may be underappreciated in my opinion.
Well, I don't think he's ever going to live down the biting kneecaps comment, right? There's just certain things. He wasn't even wrong. It's just certain things that stick in people's mind. Like I was just talking about Baker Mayfield a little bit ago. There's just certain things that stick in people's minds, whether it's positive or negative, and that's just the way they're always going to see the guy. They're always going to see Dan Campbell as this big former NFL meathead that loves Metallica, 6'5", 265 pounds. And that means he can't be a cerebral coach. And he is one of the very best at connecting with his players and putting them in a position to succeed. And we should credit him for that more often than we do.
Yeah. Brent, if I gave you the exact same exercise with the AFC, I think we have to include more teams. So I'm going to give you Patriots, Bills, Colts, Broncos, Chiefs. Patriots, Bills, Colts, Broncos, Chiefs. Who are you taking in the AFC?
I want to say the Colts just because of our earlier conversation, but it has to be.
You don't trust the Colts, right? I mean,
no, not yet.
I mean, come on,
not yet. Well, not with that defense. If that defense was playing better right now, I would feel a little more confident. But the Chiefs right now are flying high, and I'm being dead serious when I say they are playing as well as any team in the NFL at this very moment. With Patrick Mahomes getting back to where he was, and more importantly, getting the weapons around him to fully take advantage of what they can do as a team. We get Rashee Rice back from his 6-game suspension, right? You've already had Tyquan Thornton stepping up. Hollywood Brown's back in the lineup. Then Xavier Worthy's back in the lineup. Now, there are concerns about Trey Smith. His back locked up this past weekend, but as long as he doesn't miss significant time, that offense can be rolling in a hurry, and we know what that entails in the NFL with the Chiefs rolling.
Yeah, as much as I was right about the Commanders and the Colts, I said, this is the famous DB quote. I said, you know what? I'm going to take the Chargers. I finally believe in them, but I'm going to be kicking myself all year knowing that the Chiefs still have Mahomes and Andy Reid. And you know what? That's going to be true, too, because despite me knowing better,
you did it anyway.
I did it anyway. And here are the Chiefs, lo and behold, right where I thought they would be.
That's actually the name of his autobiography. Despite me knowing better, I did it anyway.
Hey, that's actually 100% accurate.
Really,
that's my
really
personality.
Good too.
Yeah. I mean, they're just they look. I'm like, why would I have said what I said and do it anyway?
Do you feel I never did this? I want to make that very clear. But was the narrative around Mahomes getting like a little stupid this offseason where they're like, well, I don't know, maybe he's like the 4th best quarter. Like, come on, guys. Like, what are we doing here?
It's
I'm not making that up, right? Like, that's what people were talking about.
No. It's greatness fatigue, right?
Yeah.
It's like in the NBA is the greatest example because you could either use LeBron or Michael as the example, depending on which version or what generation you're in. Because they were so great at all time, they should just be acknowledged, like the tribal chief in WWE at all times. And they're not, because people want to see other people play great, and it just wears you down after a while. And I just look at Mahomes and I say it. I turned 45 this month with the utmost certainty in my voice. Patrick Mahomes is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen at his peak, period. And I've seen, Brady, Manning, Marino, Elway during my lifetime, and so on and so forth. Favre, Rodgers. But to me, Mahomes is the best I've ever seen when he's playing at his absolute best. And we're getting to that point again, and that's downright scary.
And when he doesn't just have all waiver wire receivers.
Yeah, even then he's putting up numbers,
I mean,
and that's what's amazing.
Brent, we appreciate the time as always. Great stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk again soon.
Thanks, gentlemen. You guys have a good one.